Meghan Markle. Yeah, we need to talk about her properly because this whole situation has gone way beyond just royal drama at this point. So, when Tom Bower dropped that book Revenge, the reaction was kind of wild. Like seriously, people didn't even pause to process it. Everyone just started talking immediately, especially about Meghan Markle. And the thing is, Bower isn't some random gossip guy. This man has spent years going after heavyweights, politicians, billionaires, media bosses. So, when he puts something out, people pay attention. And what makes this messy is not just the claims, it's how detailed everything is. He says he spoke to over 150 people. That's not a small number. That's a whole ecosystem of insiders, ex-friends, staff, people who were actually around Meghan Markle at different stages of her life. So, naturally, the question becomes, if even some of this is true, what's really going on behind the scenes? Let's start with the biggest one that got everyone uncomfortable: the bullying allegations. Back in 2021, just before that Oprah interview, reports came out that Meghan Markle had allegedly driven staff members to quit. Not just one, multiple. And this wasn't random gossip. These were actual HR complaints filed within the palace. That's serious. Buckingham Palace even launched an investigation with outside lawyers involved. Now, here's the part that still feels off. The results, never released publicly, just quietly handled behind closed doors. And I don't know about you, but that silence says something. Because if everything was completely clean, why not just say it openly? It would have helped Meghan Markle's image massively, especially at that time. Bower goes further and says this wasn't a one-off situation. According to him, there was a pattern. Staff describing the environment as stressful, unpredictable, even emotionally draining. Meghan Markle's team denied everything, calling it a smear campaign, which, to be fair, is what you'd expect them to say. But, the fact that the complaints existed in the first place, that's not something you can just ignore. Then, you've got the whole Prince Harry visa situation, which is honestly a bit weird. Harry openly admitted to using drugs in his memoir, like very openly. And U.S. immigration forms literally ask about that. So, naturally, people started asking, did he disclose that when applying for his visa? The Heritage Foundation even took it to court to try and get those records released. And here's where Meghan Markle gets indirectly pulled into it. She's the U.S. citizen in the relationship. She would have been part of that whole process. So, if there were any missing details or inconsistencies, it's not just Harry's issue. It becomes a shared one. Now, nothing has been proven yet. Let's be clear about that. But the fact that it's an active legal situation, that alone makes it more than just gossip. Then comes the money side, and this is where things get uncomfortable. The Archwell Foundation. On paper, it sounds great. Charity, impact, all of that. But when people looked at the financial filings, especially early on, they noticed something. More money was going into salaries and admin than actual charitable grants. Now, to be fair, new foundations do have set up costs. That's normal. But Bower's angle is different. He basically suggests that Archwell feels more like a brand extension than a pure charity. Like it's part of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's overall image machine. And honestly, when you look at the overlap between Archwell and their Netflix deals, podcasts, and everything else, you can kind of see why people are questioning it. Because at the end of the day, when people donate money, they expect it to go to actual causes, not indirectly support a celebrity brand. And that's where the conversation starts getting real. Not dramatic, just real. Then, you look at the Spotify deal. And this is where things start feeling a bit awkward for Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. They signed that deal in 2020, and it was big. Reports said somewhere between $15 to $25 million. That's not small money. Naturally, expectations were high. People thought they were about to drop content regularly, maybe build something consistent. But what actually happened? Almost nothing for like 2 years, just silence. Then finally, Meghan Markle comes out with Archetypes in late 2022. The podcast had some big names, too. Mariah Carey, Mindy Kaling, Serena Williams. It wasn't like she couldn't pull guests. That wasn't the issue. The show ran for one season, 12 episodes, and that was it. Then in 2023, Spotify just ended the deal. And what made it worse was what a Spotify executive said publicly. Bill Simmons straight up called them grifters. Not behind closed doors, openly. And Spotify didn't even try to clean that up or defend Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. That silence, again, it speaks. Now think about it. A multi-million-dollar deal, and the output is just one season. Of a podcast? That's where people start questioning whether the original pitch was bigger than what they could actually deliver. And it's not just Spotify. The Netflix deal is also there. That was reportedly worth around $100 million. And what have we seen so far? A docuseries and a lifestyle show. That's not exactly a massive content pipeline for that level of money. This is where Tom Bauer's main point starts making more sense. He keeps saying Meghan Markle is very good at selling a vision. And honestly, looking at these deals, you can see why he says that. The branding is strong, the idea sounds powerful, but the follow-through? That's where things start falling short. Now let's talk about media and legal pressure, because this part gets a bit tricky. Prince Harry has taken legal action against British tabloids, especially over phone hacking, and that part is fair. That actually happened. He won settlements. No debate there. But Bauer's argument isn't about those cases. He's saying Meghan Markle and Prince Harry have built a system where any negative coverage gets challenged, pushed back, or legally pressured. Complaints to regulators, letters to broadcasters, it's constant. For example, they complain about coverage on UK networks like ITV and even took issues to regulators. Again, they have the right to do that. But when it becomes a pattern, people start asking, is this about correcting lies or controlling the narrative? Because if journalists feel like they'll get legal trouble for publishing anything critical, they might just avoid covering certain topics completely. And that leads to a bigger question. Why don't we see more deep investigative pieces about their finances or business operations from major outlets? Is it because there's nothing there, or because it's just not worth the legal headache? Then there's the Netflix documentary. And honestly, this one raised eyebrows for a different reason. In that series, some footage was shown to support their story about media harassment. But later, it turned out that some of those clips weren't even related to Meghan Markle or Prince Harry. They were from completely different events. Netflix quietly fixed it later. But still, that's not a small mistake because this wasn't just a casual video. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry were executive producers on that project. That means they had control over what was included. So when something like that slips through, people start questioning everything else. In the documentary, and this connects to another major moment, that Oprah interview. The claim about a royal family member questioning Archie's skin tone. That was one of the biggest shocks. But the thing is, no name was ever revealed. No independent confirmation either. Some insiders even disputed how it was presented. Now, that doesn't mean it didn't happen, but it also means it can't be verified. And that's exactly the kind of situation Bauer points out. Claims that are powerful but difficult to fact-check. And when you build a narrative like that, people either fully believe you or they start doubting everything. That gap right there, that's where this whole story keeps getting complicated. Then you've got the whole security situation. And honestly, this one feels more serious than people realize. When Prince Harry and Meghan Markle stepped back in 2020, they made it clear they wanted financial independence. That was the whole message. No taxpayer burden, doing their own thing. But then, reports started coming out that they were still using certain security arrangements, especially during visits to the UK. And there were questions about who was actually paying for that and on what basis it was approved. That's not just gossip. That involves public resources. Then when they moved to the US, things got even more unclear. There were claims that they were receiving briefings or cooperation from US security agencies that regular private citizens don't get. Nothing fully confirmed, nothing fully denied either. Just vague. And Tom Bauer's angle here is pretty sharp. He suggests that during the whole Megxit negotiation phase, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry might not have been fully transparent about their plans, especially their commercial plans. Because let's be real, the Netflix deal, Spotify deal, all those big contracts, those didn't just magically appear overnight after they left. Deals like that take time, planning, conversations behind the scenes. So if those were already in motion while negotiations with the palace were happening, and they weren't fully disclosed, that changes the whole context. It means the "we just want a quieter life" narrative might not have been the full picture. And if you were on the other side of that negotiation, you'd probably feel played. Now step back for a second, because this is where Tom Bauer's main idea comes together. He's not just saying Meghan Markle is bad or anything that simple. His whole point is about the gap between image and reality. He keeps coming back to that. Public image, compassionate, honest, relatable. private claims from his sources, demanding, strategic, highly controlled. And again, none of this is proven in a court or anything like that. But when you stack everything together, the staff complaints, the charity questions, the business deals that didn't fully deliver, the documentary inconsistencies, the legal pressure, the negotiation concerns, it starts forming a pattern. At least that's how Bauer presents it. Now, where does Harry fit into all this? This is actually the part where things get a bit sad, honestly. Bauer suggests that Harry wasn't always the one leading these moves. More like he got pulled into a direction that felt right emotionally. You've got to remember, this is someone who lost Princess Diana at a young age and has openly talked about feeling targeted by the media his whole life. So, when Meghan Markle came in and gave him a sense of purpose, protection, even a kind of we're in this together against the world feeling, it probably hit deep. Some of Bauer's sources describe Harry as someone who genuinely believed in the story they were telling, not necessarily questioning every detail, just trusting the bigger picture. And if that's true, it explains a lot. Because then it's not just about strategy or image anymore. It's about emotion driving decisions. Now, the bigger question, does all of this actually matter? Some people will say no. It's just celebrity drama, rich people problems, who cares? But I don't fully agree with that. Because when you're dealing with institutions like the monarchy, public charities like Archwell, and massive media deals with companies like Netflix and Spotify, this isn't just personal anymore. There's influence involved, money involved, public trust involved. If Meghan Markle and Prince Harry were treated unfairly, then that's a serious issue about media bias. But if even part of what Tom Bauer is saying is accurate, then it raises questions about accountability, about how narratives are built, about how much of what we see is actually real versus carefully managed. And I think that's why people can't stop talking about them. Not because it's just drama, but because nobody is fully sure what the truth is. And until that gets clearer,